Welcome, lover of wisdom. As you can see, I'm enjoying a beautiful summer's eve here in Greece. And today I'm going to be discussing with you about the life and work of Socrates. A short summary version so that you can be able to know the basic facts about Socrates and what was his philosophy all about, and most importantly, how it can help you today navigate the difficulties that you may be facing. So, yamas. As you may know, Socrates was born at around 460 before Christ in Athens, Greece. And he was a historical figure, and one of the main reasons is that he was one of the first to argue that we human beings are responsible for finding our own happiness, our own fulfillment. Something that we may take for granted today, but in those ancient times, it was quite a revolutionary thought. When you had practically totalitarian, dictatorial, theocratic systems where no one would dare to question the will of the pharaoh or the emperor. The pursuit of happiness in those times was considered something of a hubris, something of an arrogant stance, to dare to want happiness in this life. And it might seem strange to you and me right now in our modern days, where we consider it an inalienable right, the pursuit of happiness. This can all be traced back to Socrates, a radical thinker. And it all really transpired after Athens had lost the war to Sparta. People began to look inwardly and look for the meaning of their life. So many lives were lost in the war with Sparta. And Socrates was one of these people who said that this can't be all there is to life, just going to war and suffering. There must be more to life. And this is where we see the birth of really philosophy in the form of psychology. As Cicero said, Socrates brought down philosophy from the heavens. He brought it down to earth. Because you see, up until then, Greek philosophers occupied themselves with the movement of the stars and the planets, and the movement of the earth, and measuring the earth, and such things as geometry and greater scientific discoveries. Few people actually created the pursuit of happiness as a life purpose. Most people simply surrendered at that time to religion, to, the 12 gods, the Olympian gods, and that was it. Whatever the gods wanted to do with your life, you were at their mercy. So Socrates encouraged us to ask specific questions. What is the meaning of my life? What is the purpose of my life? How can I live in a good way? What is considered the good life? And how can I create it? He encouraged us to be brutally honest with ourselves, be truthful with ourselves, not lie to ourselves. Through this self-inquiry, we can approach what is your truth, my truth, what are my values, what do I consider important in this life, and how can I make the best of this life? For Socrates, happiness is something that we create inside of us. It's in our hands. It's not something that can come to you from something external. Because think about it, many of the times when you have a great success in life, it often comes at a great sacrifice. You will lose out on other things. So something that is considered a blessing in your life may turn out to be something very negative. And something that comes to you that you feel is negative may turn out to be something very positive. It might transform you into a wiser, more mature person, a person who learns to be grateful in life. So things are not what they outwardly appear to be. You know that famous prayer, the serenity prayer. It says, Lord, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change those things I can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is what Socrates is saying. You can affect your thoughts. You can affect your emotions. That's within your power. You need to start exercising this power if you ever want to find happiness. Some things are outside of your power, like the weather, like the coronavirus, like some external things like the economy. Those things you cannot change. Take charge of the things you can change, says Socrates. This is the way to happiness. To be the master of your own soul, the captain of your destiny, like the charioteer who manages the horses. You are in charge of your life. You are the only one who can find fulfillment in your life. Socrates developed a method that was based on mindfulness. In the Greek language, mindfulness is called prosophi. Prosophi. This is simply the Greek word for mindfulness. And he said that we need to be mindful of our thoughts, constantly curating and moderating our thoughts. When we do this, we exercise a self-checking mechanism. This self-checking mechanism in Greek is called elenchos. Elenchos. It means to survey, to check, to keep what is good and throw away what is not necessary, what is toxic, what will limit you. This is the path to what Socrates called ataraxia. Ataraxia in Greek means to be unshakable. This is what it means to master your thoughts, not to suppress your thoughts, to be mindful of your thoughts. For example, say you're having a toxic thought about someone else, someone who's more successful than you, and you comparing yourself to them, and you're thinking all these negative thoughts about that other person. Why him and not me? Why her and not me? This creates a negativity, a toxicity in you when you're comparing yourself to other people. So when you have mindfulness and you exercise elenchos, you catch yourself. You say, haha, I see, I just had a toxic thought. I reject it. I do not accept this thought. I refuse to have toxic thoughts. I refuse to have thoughts of comparing my happiness to other people's happiness. This is what it means to have self-mastery. For Socrates, the path to fulfillment and happiness comes with doing the right thing. In Greek, the word is areti. In English, the closest word to it is having virtue and honor. When I say virtue, I don't mean it in the Christian sense of being pious, being a goody two-shoes. I don't mean that. Areti means to have goodness of character, to do the right thing, to do the noble thing, to do the honorable thing. It doesn't have to do with chastity related to sexuality in terms of being virtuous. When the Greeks talked about virtue, i.e. areti, they meant honorable character, excellence of character. The one who would take the high road, not to stoop low, not to go onto the level of people who took the lower, the cheating way, the lying way. In order to have areti and live with areti, the Greeks proposed that we live according to 4 cardinal virtues. And these cardinal virtues were later adopted by the Christians. The first is courage. To have the courage to stand up for what you believe in. To even go to war for it if you have to. To stand up for what is right. This is courage. Second, you had justice. To be fair, to be truthful and honest. To handle with other people in a just and fair manner. And this is the way we create a just and civilized society so that we can all live together. It all begins with the individual. We are each responsible for handling with justice and fairness. Third, temperance. The Greeks are all about temperance, never in excess, nothing in excess, always finding the balance and the middle way. This is the golden mean. The perfect way to live is nothing in excess. Never to flaunt, for example, wealth and be ostentatious and just, showing off. Always finding the middle way. This is what the Greeks were all about. The middle way. Temperance as a way of life. Not over drinking, not complete abstinence from drinking, but drinking just as much as you need to feel pleasant. Never getting drunk and ridiculing yourself. Always about the middle way. And the 4th cardinal virtue is practical wisdom. Okay? Somebody said that common sense is not so common. The Greeks greatly esteemed a practical type of wisdom. Do the right thing. Do the obvious thing. Do what is a practical and wise choice. And they cultivated these 4 virtues, and this is the way to happiness and fulfillment according to the Greeks and Socrates, who really propagated these 4 cardinal virtues. Now you might say, yes, what if I act justly, I am honorable, but other people behave in an evil way? Socrates was the first to go ahead and say we need to learn to have understanding for these people. Understanding that they are doing this because they are ignorant. It's like a little child. If you see a little child, they'll often try to do some mischievous things, some things that a grown-up person would never do. They might hide things, they might steal things, they might do things, and you understand that this is a child, this is an immature human being. This is the kind of understanding that Socrates says that we need to have with these people. To predict it and foresee it if you're dealing with these people. Because, for example, from a snake, you accept the fact that a snake bites, okay? It's not a bad snake. The snake will just bite. That's what it does, okay? So when you're dealing with a snake, you need to be prepared. It's up to you. It's your responsibility to protect yourself against this vicious character. Do not blame the other person. Take responsibility for what's happening. Have understanding that they are very short-sighted and that they will pay ultimately for their wrong ways. It's all going to boomerang on them. It's all going to come back to them. And we see that with people who have short-term gains, they ruin their reputation, nobody wants to deal with them, and ultimately they're just shooting themselves in the foot. So Socrates says that you need to be the more mature person in these situations. You need to act responsibly. Don't judge them. Just understand that That's where they're at. Do take protection so they don't do harm to you, but also exercise understanding. They are simply ignorant fools, and they are going to pay for their evil character. When you lie, when you cheat, when you steal, when you lie to yourself and deceive yourself, nobody's really looking. To thy own self be true, says Socrates. It's this understanding that you yourself know very well what you're doing. Okay, be honest with yourself, says Socrates. Be brutally honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Now, you're not perfect, but the pursuit of excellence is what makes you noble. You will never reach the perfection. You will sometimes react in an unnoble way. What you have to do there is simply learn the lesson and self-adjust and self-correct. What makes you noble, what makes you have areti, is this desire to improve yourself, the desire to be the best version of yourself. This excellence is what the Greeks greatly valued, the pursuit of excellence. So Socrates says that even if you sometimes fake it, even if you are not always being honest, the best you can do is try your best. Do your best. That's all you can do. Do your absolute best and be honest with yourself. Is that the best you can do? Or can you step up and be better? To thy own self be true. Socrates was not a dogmatic character. He was not the Messiah type of person to say, these are the 10 commandments, you must live with them. No, his way was completely different. He asked you questions. He stimulated people to think. He made people think about their life, not just obey like little robots and little servants to some great guru or religious character. Socrates simply asked you thought-provoking questions. He helped you to think for yourself. This is what Greek philosophy does. It is not a dogma. It helps you to think for yourself by asking questions to yourself about, why did I do that? What motivates me? What makes me insecure? Why do I want love from other people and appreciation? Why don't I just make myself happy? What if I were this type of character? What if I could see the world differently? Asking yourself questions is what Socrates encouraged. This is the path of the Greek philosophers. Socrates created the first recorded rational approach to personal development. At the time when mysticism and dogma were rife, he believed that we can only arrive at the truth by questioning our own assumptions on a regular basis. Socrates is quoted to have said, "I cannot teach anyone anything. I can only teach them to think." Socrates is most famous for the quote, "An unexamined life is not worth living." In other words, wake up from your robot mode. Stop being on automatic pilot. Don't be a victim of your upbringing. You can break free of those chains. You can break free of your pattern. The only thing you have to do, says Socrates, is ask questions to yourself and be brutally honest about things. This way you decide how you want to live your life. Nobody else can do that for you. The art is in maintaining our objectivity, being able to observe our own self in order to become aware of how our attitude, intention, and behavior participate in the formation of problems that we are actually trying to solve. Socrates taught that we need to do this by asking questions. So we need to constantly ask So we need to constantly question and test our thinking to arrive at the truth or the solution. Harvard professor of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman, analyzes this in his phenomenal book, Vital Lies, Simple Truths, The Psychology of Self-Deception. So let's do some exercises that have to do with Socrates. First, take a general belief you have about yourself, others, or your environment, or the world in general. A perspective such as, one has to sweat for one's daily bread, or nothing comes easy, no one can ever trust one's employees, or politicians are only looking after their own interests. Now, search for a general exception to those statements. Okay? Look for the exception. Ask yourself, are there exceptions to those rules that I have set for myself? Are there exceptions to those beliefs? If so, create a newer, truer belief that is more specific. For example, if you would think all politicians are corrupt, find some politicians in the world that are not corrupt. Find these exceptions and refine your thinking. Say to yourself, a lot of politicians are corrupt, but not all. Some are truly working for the public good. Some are working for the public service. Okay? In other words, question your beliefs. Don't have things written in stone. Doubt your beliefs. Refine your thought so that it best reflects the truth. So to conclude, Socrates was all about finding your inner truth. In some ways, you can even personify this inner wisdom as an inner god or goddess. Refer to your inner god or goddess. Refer to your inner guardian of truth, your inner sage, your higher self. That's a very useful thing to do, to personify them so that you can actually converse with this inner wisdom that you have. Socrates had his own inner god, what he called the daemonion, in a way that was like his inner conscious, your wisdom, your best self. This is the self that will help you through the most difficult times in your life. So go ahead and discover your inner Socrates, your inner goddess Athena. The answers are all within you, according to Socrates, as long as you're willing to be truthful with yourself and others.